Yes. Welcome to Valhalla.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Seven Kinds of Mischief. I am your host, Stone Loki, and with me today is, of course, my co-host on Thursday nights, the one and only, the mad doctor of disaster and destruction, Adega Outlaw.
That's so funny. It's like it started off a year and a half ago, the doctor, Adega Outlaw, and then it went from there to the author, Dr. Adega, Dr. Author, and then Matt's the last one. So this is funny.
The doctor of disaster, the doctor of disaster and destruction, the mad doctor of disaster and destruction. You remember that first Rocky movie where Apollo Creed, the master of disaster, he flies like a butterfly and stings like a bee, the master blaster, the doctor of destruction, and Rocky's like, how many names does this guy have? Yeah, that's Adega Outlaw right there. Greetings, everyone. I hope you guys have had a great week. It is so good to see you all here. Lady Mist, hello, our guardian of the void, says hello, Loki and Adega. Wonderful evening. Hello to you, Lady Mist. Good evening, Luis. Sparrow is here. Good evening, Luis. Psychodorf 9! How are you doing, my friend? I hope you are doing well. Good evening, The Wrenches, Chris Persia, Mark the Infinitely Tired. I don't know if I saw Josh in here. I don't think I did, but he is. Project Storytime, there he is. Project Storytime, the Three Wrenches, the Valhalla crew, the mods of mods, the wrenches of wrenches. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. It is absolutely wonderful to see you. Dave G Sound says, Outlaw! Good evening, everybody.
I've known him for a while, longer than you.
Day Bob, my brother from another day Bob. Oh my God, my brother from another mother, Dave Bob. I tongue-tied myself on that one. Leia Rose, good evening, Leia Rose. It is so good to see you here. Brandon, Looney Tunes fan 2000. Good evening, Brandon. He is a premiere tomorrow or Saturday. He is a premiere Saturday night, a Looney Tunes premiere Saturday night. Mark the Infinitely Tired says the Wrenches of Ragnarok. I freaking love that. The Wrenches of Ragnarok. Thank you, Mark the Infinitely Tired. I absolutely love that. God, I love Ragnarok. End of the world. When the world serpent eats the world. Oh man. So how are you doing tonight, brother?
Better than usual.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what it is. It's a melted light bulb turned on.
So
the past 4 days have been pretty dang nice. A reprieve. I felt almost human again, so it's been good.
Well, I just got a package. I just got a package delivered.
You don't need to see that on stream.
Oh my God. Not that kind of package, Adega. Not that kind of package. Jesus. Oh my God. No, I just got a package. I just got a package brought into the studio. You are going to eat your heart out when I show this off. I got the I ordered, this has been 8-9 months now. I've been waiting for this, and it is the entire Mass Effect trilogy vinyl album. So I'm gonna go nuts.
I hate you.
I'm gonna go nuts, and they're special vinyls. So it's not just black vinyls, of course. I love the colored vinyls. This is supposed to be like a clear vinyl with a purple galaxy swirl in the middle. So I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to look at them.
I need to see them.
Yes.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool.
Chris Persia says, gee whiz, Loki, you're supposed to take them little pills in the presence of your lady friend, not in here. Oh, crap. I don't need the little blue pills. Thanks, Chris.
Speaking of giants.
He's a tripod, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, my God. Oh, people are going to be like, is that really true? Well, you're never going to find out, so... Maybe if you go back 20 years. Never mind. I'm not going to say anything. Anyway, we've got a crazy ass show for you guys tonight. I know Adega's cooked up something special because he was sending me pictures today, and I was like, "Ooh, what's this? Oh my God!" It's like yeah. Okay, so let's get going. I've got my story up for later. We're going to read Pain Part 3 from Mr. Staniforth, but RM Staniforth. But before that, we've got a very interesting subject tonight brought to us by Adega Outlaw. So by all means, brother, hit it.
All right. The pictures aren't really. Here's the thing. I tried to find pictures for tonight, and only one or two of them really matched anything. The two-head thing there, and then the map of Michigan are appropriate. You'll know when to show them, but it really doesn't matter. Here's the thing. I told you guys, most of you who've been listening know that I'm half Indian, half Irish. And I grew up in Southern California. At one point, they pull you out of class and they say, well, you're special. You don't need to be in with the other kids because you're Native American. You got to get this special class. And I said, okay. And they stuck me in front of a TV for half the day. And I thought, and then I'm in fourth grade and I'm going, I'm not learning anything. Why the heck am I here? Well, you're supposed to be here. And I said, no, I'm supposed to learn stuff. So I walked out and went back to my regular class. But I wanted to study history anyway. And you hear a lot of things, and you Canadian people hear about the First Nation. You hear about this being stolen land, but what they don't tell you is that the stolen land was stolen land from stolen land. So I'm going to get into several different topics, all related to each other, and they're all related to the picture. Because, see, we have the Native Americans that we know now. A lot of them, an awful lot of them, and this is getting to a roundabout way where we're going to go because I want to read some things too, are from Asia. We've done the genetic testing from Mongolia type areas. But there is a group which are actually from haplogroup X, which is Israelites. Those are the Cherokee, I think. And there was another tribe where they're specifically from Israel. But before them was a group called the Hopwell. And some think they were the Mound Builders. And before them were a group called the Adinas. And the Adinas were very special. This is where that map of Michigan comes in. You have heard, and we have some pictures of them digging up giants, and somehow they all disappear. Not this one, because that one's from the Michigan. Up, you see the map for you people who don't come from the United States and maybe haven't studied our geology. Where that box is around Lake Superior, and that spiky looking thing that is on the bottom right, that's called part of the UP, or Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And what they found in that area are copper mines. And they still, up until recently, were pulling copper out of there because of immense amounts of it. But in ancient times with the Adena, which predated by at least a couple thousand years the Native Americans that are here, these Adenas had copper mines there too. And they mined the traditional way that the ancients did, except their mines were massive. They used to use things called hammerstones, a stone that you'd fit in your hands, and the cheap, easy way to dig out of rock was to take these hammerstones and pound with it. A lot of laborious work, but they have evidence where they would tunnel these things out. They found in these areas hammerstones that weighed over 100 pounds, which meant that whoever was wielding the thing, or the people that were wielding them, were beasts.
Yeah, I could totally attest to that, because even carrying something like that, if you were to try to like pack that and carry it on your shoulders, on your back. That's a lot of weight, especially
Right.
metal,
Right.
compressed metal like that. That's a lot of weight.
But they were beating the crap out of this stone to dig the copper out with these 100-pound hammer stones. Plus, there are these archaeological finds that somehow the Smithsonian gets a hold of and they disappear. But we do have picture evidence, and we do have some other evidence of giants. There's a reason they say it's to protect the artifacts or whatever is buried in some of these mounds where they talk about the mound builders. Some of the times when they did dig them up, they thought early on that they had found Roman artifacts because there were helmets that looked very Romanesque, but they were huge, or breastplates, or bodies that were over 8 feet tall. You can go ahead and show whatever image you want. Now, the reason why I brought this up is because I got into this guy here. A lot of people aren't sure about this thing. And I've tried to study it, and I haven't found anyone who said that it was a fake. They've studied it. It's a mummy from, they found in 16 some odd, but it's two-headed, and it's also 12 feet tall. But mummified, it's 11.5. I want to go ahead and read some of the story about this, and then there's something else I wanted to read. This is called the two-headed mummy, 11.5 foot tall. It was discovered, they say, Patagonia originally, but it's kind of a twisted story. Let's go ahead and get into this. The story of Kapdwa, that's Kapdwa. The two-headed giant is without a doubt one of the most intriguing you'll hear all day. I don't know, maybe you hear some wild stuff today, but at least this author thought it was that intriguing. This 3.5 meter tall giant was allegedly discovered in Patagonia, but there are many unanswered questions surrounding its discovery. The discovery is one thing. The validity of it being actually a human mummified body, I haven't seen anyone refute it. Anyway, we'll continue. The story was told the locals said that in 1673, two-headed ogre attacked and was defeated by a group of Spanish sailors. They overcame the giant sheer strength with their minds. They caged it, and eventually someone speared it and killed it on their ship. It was later then mummified and sent to London, and it sat until the 19th century. While in 1914, on the shores of Burnbeck Harbor, a lot of commotion was created when the people traveled hundreds of miles to see the mysterious mother. It was a sideshow. Basically, this mummy was there in the sideshow. Like any freaks back in the late 18 and 19, they had these freak shows, and mummies were big. And since this one was a giant mummy with two heads, it was quite popular. It still exists. Some people can see it. As far as I know, no one's done any x-rays on it, which would be interesting. But there are no seams or lines, no stitches, like a lot of the fakes. P.T. Barnum, back in the day, was one of the ones who would do a lot of that, where they would, you can see his neck. The skin is all there. And coming from an anatomy standpoint, I looked at the chest piece from a different angle, and the collarbone, along with the way you see along the face that is kind of turned towards us, if you look on the far side of it, the left side of the jaw, that line of meat that runs down and runs into the necklace, that's called the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Sorry, my tongue is getting tight. Anyway, that's a muscle that helps rotate the head. And both of them have them in appropriate places that would match someone with two heads. Because we've seen two-headed people. We have one, a girl and her sister share a body that have been fully functional. They just look like this. They have two heads on one body. It's rare. But everything points to this being legit. Not just a two-headed person, but also a giant. And I want to read something. There's a lot of things in history. Now, I wanted to share a whole ton of pictures because some of these giant stories, some of these giant artifacts, there used to be a lot of them that you could find, and they're disappearing. If you wanted to look for, say, a horned skull of a giant, there used to be, you could find, there was a pair of them that came out of Russia. They looked very legit to me, but now you can't find them. You find all these ones where they put in to make them look like devil horns or ram's horns or fakes. To find the real authentic ones, it's very difficult. And no one ever talks about them. Or some of them will have 2 rows of teeth. That was a very common thing with some of these giant bones, where they would open up and you could see almost like a shark, only not 5 rows, but they would have 2 rows of teeth. But let me read this thing here. There was, it was in the 1500, late 16, it was 1567 to 1630s when this guy has lived. His name was Sebald de Wert. He was an explorer, sailor. And this story seems to hold a lot of validity with a lot of other stories, because there's several of them. Even Magellan matched this one. It says during De Wit's time in the Magellan Straits, there were some anthropological noteworthy events that are associated with him. You guys, if you wanted to follow along, this is Wikipedia Legacy. I don't normally use Wikipedia, but this came out to where it was reasonable. One instance of which is that De Wit and several crew claim to have seen members of a race of giants while there. De Wit described a particular incident when he was with his men in a boat rowing to an island in the Magellan Strait. The Dutch claimed to have seen 7 odd-looking boats approaching with, it was written bad, were full of naked giants. These giants supposedly had long hair and reddish-brown skin. The Dutch claimed to have shot 3 of the giants dead with their muskets before the giants finally retreated to the shore. On the shore, the giants were apparently able to uproot trees from the ground to protect themselves from the musket fire, and they waited with spears and stones so that they could attack the Dutch intruders should they make a breachhead. In fear of the giants, the Dutch dared not land. De Wert claims to have sightings of giants were not totally unusual for the region, as Magellan also first recorded sighting them in 1520 in the Straits of San Julian. It was also claimed that Magellan captured 2 male giants as specimens to return to Europe, but the giants died en route. These creatures were supposedly over 3 meters tall. Many others, including Francis Drake, Pedro Sarmiento, Tome Hernandez, Anthony Nevet, claim to have seen giants in the Strait of Magellan, with these last sightings having been at Cabo Vergenes in 1764 by Commodore John Foulweather Jack Barron. De Wert's expedition is the only one to have claimed to have witnessed aggressive behavior on behalf of the giants. Go ahead. There's a couple other pictures I wanted to show. There's the one drawing. This is interesting, and it's one of the things, and I don't have things against religions. People can believe whatever they want to believe, but there are some aspects about the Catholic religion that kind of gets me a little upset. This here is a drawing that was taken, you can see down it says Codex Vaticano. Originally it was Codex Ciano or Aseo, and they changed it. The Vatican took a lot of these ancient artwork that was done by the natives. Most of it was done on stone or copper, gold. They used all kinds of different things, but of course the Spaniards melted it down and pillaged. This is one of the ones that survived in this thing, and it shows a group of people that had captured and slaughtered a giant. And like I said, there used to be multiple images of skulls. We have some images from the turn of the last century when they started having actual pictures taken of these different events. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that there are a absolute ton of fakes out there. But there are some that are legit. There was one skull that I wanted to, I sent you a picture of skull. It was, and it also has some of those elongated skulls, which this isn't, the center one is not an elongated skull. This guy was found in Alaska, and he's massive. You could fit a normal human skull with inside that skull.
That looks like almost Cro-Magnon. It
kind of does, doesn't it? But that was the thing with these giant skulls. See the ridge on the top of that? That's uncommon. But like I said, the Russians, they had some that had horns, extra rows of teeth. This massive jaw, I don't recall ever seeing one that had a jaw similar to that. It could be a disease process that this person suffered from. The size indicates, though, that it was something else. So it was an odd thought. I wanted to bring up some historical artifacts, show you some of these weird things that pop up. And a lot of it I just can't find anymore. I should have saved the images because nowadays it's just polluted.
Chris Persia asks, Adega, didn't they find elongated skulls in Antarctica?
I think they found them just about everywhere. To be honest, they're in Asia, they're in the Americas, Antarctica. Yeah, they are weird because you go into the ancient aliens and they think that these are an alien race. You go into some of the archaeologists, they think it was head binding, and knowing anatomy, head binding cannot do that. There was races of humans that looked odd. And just like every other generation, the oddities are the ones that get picked on and sometimes slaughtered. And I think for some reason, either these oddities with the elongated skulls were either bred out or exterminated. Same with the giants. But the evidence is there.
There was a guy in Germany that was like, God, I can't remember. He's like 8-9 feet tall. He was enormous. He only lived into his 30s because his heart was 3 times the size of a normal man's.
8 foot tall. Yes, there's pictures of him. He got a scratch on his ankle. And the problem with him, he had a pituitary issue. So his body wasn't normally supposed to be there. It was a disease process. And with the scratch on his ankle, it got infected and he couldn't feel it because his nervous system was not genetically designed to match the height. But actually being that tall normally isn't a problem. We have some basketball players that, 7 foot high, and they can feel those things. They don't have a problem with it. He was a genetic mutation or a pathological mutation. It was a hormone imbalance that sent his body into a growth spurt that just couldn't be maintained.
It's crazy.
Right. There's, one of these days, maybe I should do an Antarctica thing. I think most of you, the way you're talking, you know a lot of what's going on, with the pyramids, the tropics, everything that's down there. We have royalty. We have politicians from most nations that go down there and they never discuss what they've done, what they've seen, the underground stuff that's there. But Antarctica is one of those funky, mysterious places. So anyway, I thought I wanted to share with you some stuff that there are bases in reality. These giants keep popping up, and I found that 2-headed guy, and I thought, you know what? We haven't talked about giants. I might as well bring it up. The evidence is there. We had many varieties of humans over the centuries. And one thing about Cro-Mags, this is something that I don't have conclusive evidence on it. A lot of times they get into these Paleolithic and ancient. They say these were humans, predecessors or ancestors, progenitors, people before us, and they'll come up with 3 or 4 skull fragments and assemble a whole skull out of it. The thing about that is it's going off of assumptions. It's not going off of fact. When you have fragments and broken skulls, you don't have a whole intact body. There's no way to tell what it looked like. They're just assembling it to make it look like what they want it to look like. where one of these days I can actually show you images, because they found them in several places, of footprints, human footprints, normal-sized human footprints, petrified alongside dinosaur footprints. So let that weigh on your head. I think a lot of our history we're being lied to about. So, all right, there you go.
Thank you, brother, so very much for that.
You bet.
I'm going to start looking at Antarctica again. And yeah, I agree with Chris Persian when he says, can you imagine what's under the ice? I can. Absolutely can. All right. So last time on 7 Kinds of Mischief, we went over pain, part 2, where, let's see, our good friend,
that's my listening face.
Let me see here. Hold on one second. I don't know why this isn't loading at the moment. Okay, here we go.
Sorry.
Our good friend was brought into the pain organization because he was being hunted by assassins. So he agreed to join Pain. He called up Arthur and agreed to join Pain. This is 5.5 months after part 2. My first mission with Pain. You had asked me 6 months ago where I thought I'd be now. I would have never guessed that I'd be here. Even when I agreed to join Pain, I had no idea that I was about to embark on 6 months of militarized boot camp style field agent training. 6 months ago, I sat down to drink some cognac, but no shit, here I am, some 10, 20,000 push-ups later, about to graduate as an agent of Pain. Basic agent school, I spent the last 6 months getting whipped into shape, learning combat skills, being taught how to use various weapons, but most importantly, we were rigorously taught about the numinous entities that Pain deals with. I still remember my disbelief when Arthur finally explained to me what Pain is and what they do. Arthur smiled when I asked that question, the type of smile that says, "What I'm about to tell you will completely change everything you think or know about this world. Pain is the protective agency of numinous beings," he had told me with a smirk. The what? Arthur, I don't even know what numinous means. Numinous entities are intelligences and creatures that most people would consider supernatural, paranormal, or even godly. They range from harmless, interdimensional intelligences to creatures your worst nightmares couldn't create. At first, I honestly thought he was messing with my head. But after all the crazy shit I had just been through, it was much easier to accept that my understanding of the world was, well, clueless. I mean, I'd just been attacked by some crazy dudes wearing red masks. Arthur had to explain to me that those people were called HDs, or human drones. Basically, they used to be human, but they were now controlled by a parasitic artificial intelligence embedded within the mask. I watched as they pulled off one of the masks. The mask had some sort of biological wires that gouged themselves through the eye sockets of the helpless human host. They would then wriggle themselves into the brain of their host, taking complete control of the body and mind. The most terrifying thing about the HDs is that Pain doesn't yet know who created the AIs, nor how the HDs are being controlled. Nonetheless, the HDs had quickly become our greatest enemy over the last few years. And all we know is that the AIs are getting better with every interaction. Either way, I was now riding in a helicopter over a wintry forest on my way to what would be the final test of Pain field agent training. We would have to utilize all of our training, combat, academics to prove ourselves in the field. This wouldn't just be a trading mission, though. We were about to embark on a real mission. I can't express how nervous I felt. There were 12 people in my class, and some of these people were truly elite operatives. To the left of me sat a man called Cormac, a Green Beret who was recruited from the U.S. Special Forces Delta Team. To the right of me was a Russian man known only as Samashtishi, who had been recruited from the Russian Spetsnaz. You can understand why I sometimes felt inadequate. But so far, I had held my own. The two helicopters landed in a small clearing in the middle of a large forest somewhere in Alaska. The crew chief opened the door and motioned for everybody to get out. I followed Samashti out the door into the woodline, where we grouped up, taking my heavy backpack with me. "Listen, recruits," boomed Agent Gunnar, our drill and trading agent. "We have a 12-mile ruck through the woods." 6 months ago, this would have said, "Nope, F that." But by the time I'm in the best shape of my life, we did 12-mile marches every weekend now, and 5-mile runs for 4 days a week. "We will find ourselves nearby a town that has been plagued by disappearances. Those that have been found are usually found torn apart and mostly eaten. The local authorities blame the bears, but bears don't snatch people out of their fucking cars and drag them miles into the forest, do they?" "No, sir," we said in unison. "Our mission is to figure out what is terrorizing these people, hunt it down, and kill it. Is that understood?" "Understood, sir." "Excellent. During your ruck, I want you to think long and hard about what sort of entity this could be. We'll make a plan once we arrive. Is that understood?" "Understood, sir." "All right, absolute badasses. Let's go." As Agent Gunnar gave his final command, we loaded up our heavy rucksacks and stepped out, weapons in hand. We spread out, and I stayed closest to Maashki. He was an intimidating man with a lot of grit, and frankly, this dude was crazy as a motherfucker. That being said, Samashti had shown me more kindness than most of the other experienced recruits. "How are you holding up, comrade?" Samashti asked, noticing that I was a bit nervous. "Kind of nervous. I'm not sure exactly what to expect." "I remember first combat. My hands shake bad. I can't even smoke cigarette after." His words didn't make me any feel better, but his tone did. I knew this guy would have my back. "But you'll get used to it in time," he continued. "My second time in Syria, we just smoke with our dead comrades." The way he laughed at this reminded me that this guy had seen some serious shit. The next few miles were spent mostly in silence. The only sounds were the footsteps, the rustling leaves, and Smashy quietly chuckling at the jokes he muttered to himself. I thought back to my conversation with Arthur after he explained to me what pain does. "So, are you saying that pain protects people from these beings, or does pain protect the numerous beings from people?" I'd asked him. "Ah, yes, both," he said. "The Sasquatch, for example, we've been ensuring that they stay hidden from the world now for decades. They don't pose any real threat to people, but people pose a threat to the Sasquatch. On the other hand, we also recently had to go deal with a manticore problem in Lebanon last year." I wondered what I'll be up against today. We stepped our way through the beautiful winter wonderland to a forest. I could see my breath, but I wasn't cold. Payne issued us some high-tech equipment. Uniforms, for example, were lightweight and functional, but still somehow kept you warm in the cold and cool in the warm. Even our body's armor was lightweight, stronger than steel with quarter-inch the weight. We wore advanced high-tech helmets that had the radios and earpieces built in. The visor had a built-in helmet display unit, HDU, that could switch between different settings such as thermal and night vision. Gunnar held up his hand, signaling everyone to rally around him. The sun was low in the west, signaling the sunset wasn't far. "Take a moment to eat, hydrate. It's going to be a long damn night," Gunnar ordered, this time in a hushed and quiet tone. "We're going to split into 3 hunting teams of 4 recruits. Your mission is to track down the numinous entity. Once you find a trail, you are to signal your location to the other teams. We will organize an ambush. I was relieved to find out that I was teamed up with Shimoski. Seeing he wasn't scared of shit, I felt more confident with him. We also had Xavier and Johnson with us. Xavier was the only one here younger than I and had previously been a pilot for the Canadian Air Force. Johnson had come from the CIA. The dude rarely talked, and I know almost nothing about him other than that he came from the CIA and spoke fluent Arabic and Mandarin. We walked quietly, spread out with about 10 meters between each of us. Smosky took the lead and the other 3 of us staggered behind him. We made our way through the frozen land as night fell. Turned on the night vision of my helmet's display unit. It wasn't the grainy green night vision you see in the movies. The HDU made whatever you were looking at appear as if it was the mega LED beam flashlight lighting up. Honestly, it was more clear than regular eyesight. We'd been walking for almost 4 hours, scouting our assigned areas, when my HDU picked up a heat signature that wasn't one of my teammates. Smoshi saw it too, as he put up a fist signaling for everyone to halt. Xavier, Johnson, you take rear security. Buckleff, you come with me. I be security, you check it out. Smoshley and I slowly walked towards the unmoving heat signature, which was coming from behind a bush. I was about 15 feet away when I noticed that the snow all around the object was red. Blood red. As I closed in, keeping an eye out for any movement, I nearly puked into my helmet at what I saw. It was a human body. Parts of it, at least. There was no head. The ribcage had been ripped open, with all the organs ripped out. While I stood there, like an idiot, staring at the disgusting corpse, Samashti quietly called into the radio, remaining calm and collected. This is Bravo Team. We find dead body. Body still warm, he told everyone. That's when the reality of the situation hit me. The body was giving a heat signature, but it was cold. Cold out here. Whatever beast had caused this, it was recent, and it was still nearby. As the orders came from Gunner to hold security positions until the rest arrived, I laid down in the prone position, analyzing my fire lane. That's when the smell hit me. It was the most disgusting, foul smell I'd ever smelled in my life. Imagine if 1,000 people all shit in the same pit and left it rotting there for weeks. That's how bad this smelled. When I first saw it, I thought it was a tree swaying in the breeze. If my HDU hadn't picked up the extra movement, I probably wouldn't have even noticed it. As the creature stepped out from behind a large tree, I could see this thing for what it truly was. Every last horrid detail. It stood over 4 meters tall. That's about 12 feet. At first, I thought it was a skeleton, but I quickly realized that there was skin. Rotting brown and yellow skin wrapped tightly around the exposed bones. The beast had a large head with a protruding mouth and jaw, which showed off long yellow fangs still stained red, with the human that it had just eaten. Its yellow, hollow eyes were sunken into its giant skull. The long, narrow arms ended just shy of his pointy knees, ending with the fingers that looked like daggers. I froze, unable and unwilling to move. What the fuck is that? Is anyone else seeing this? I said, quietly, trying to stay still as a statue. I didn't think it had noticed me yet. Over my earpiece, I heard Smoski say what I'm assuming were Russian curses, letting me know that he was seeing it too. Do not engage unless you have to until other teams arrive. We're 400 meters out. I repeat, do not engage. We are 400 meters out, came Gunner's voice over the radio. What the fuck is that? Xavier's shaky voice said. I don't know. Just stay fucking still. I don't think it knows we're here. Smoski's rappy chuckle came over the radio. How was he not scared shitless? Iswen Beagle, he said through his chuckles. A motherfucking Wendigo. Holy shit, Samosky's right, I said to the team. Wendigo can't see worth shit, remember? They can only track motion. As long as you don't move, he won't know we're here. He's walking towards me, Johnson whispered, sounding like he was starting to panic. It's only 3 meters fucking away. Indeed, the Wendigo was walking right toward Johnson. Don't move. I caused distraction, said Samosky in a serious tone for the first time ever. God, I wish Johnson had just listened. The Wendigo was now within 1 meter of Johnson, and he panicked. He lifted his weapon, but he only had time to get off 1 shot. The second Johnson moved, the Wendigo swiped at Johnson with remarkable speed and coordination. His claws ripped into Johnson's neck, bursting out the other side. The forest erupted in gunfire. The beast, caught off guard by the rapid onset of Samosky's bullets pounding into his large torso, staggered backwards. Still attached to his dagger-sized claws was Johnson's now decapitated head, still wearing his helmet. The beast let out a terrible sound. If you were to combine the roar of 100 lions and the screams of 1,000 women, that's the closest you would get to this thing's screams. The Wendigo threw Johnson's head at Samosky with enough force to knock him off his feet. Although the Wendigo was originally walking on his 2 legs, it was now running at Samosky on all 4s. I jumped up and started firing my weapon at the beast on full auto. Striking it several times, it stumbled and hit the ground, but was quickly back on its feet, this time looking at me. With another scream, he started running at me while I dumped the rest of the ammo in my magazine at him. Although I'd hit him several times, he was still running full speed at me, and my magazine was now empty. I dropped the magazine and stepped backward as I reached for a full one, but the Wendigo was quick, closing the gap. It lunged at me from 3 meters away, about to rip me to pieces. I fell backwards and put my hand out in front of me as if that would somehow shield me from this monster. Gunfire erupted from both sides as Samosky and Xavier fired at the creature from different angles. The creature reared back in pain, causing him to miss my torso, but the claw still connected with my arm with a hell of a force. I felt and heard my arm rip open and my bones break as I hit the ground. When the Wendigo staggered back, I heard the most marvelous sound from the woods behind me. Thomp, thomp, thomp. It was the sound of a grenade launcher. At least one of the teams arrived and had the brains to fire grenades at this thing. The first grenade exploded on a tree right next to the thing's head, knocking it to the ground. I staggered back, trying to get out of the blast zone as more grenades rained down on the creature, exploding on trees and the ground uncomfortably close to me. It wasn't easy, with my only good arm still holding onto my weapon. I felt a hand grab me by the back of my body armor and rip me backwards. I was dragged back 10 meters or so to behind a small tree as gunfire and grenades blast raged not far. Do not worry, comrade. Just scratch, chuckled Samosky as he started wrapping a band over my upper arm. Sharp pain came from the band as I realized that it was a tourniquet. After tightening it down so tight that it hurt just as bad as the wound, he said, "Let's go kill this motherfucker." And he ran backward toward the action. Inspired by his bravery, I ran after him. One arm is better than no arm, I guess. We hammered the beast with all the bullets and grenades we had. The Wendigo showed remarkable endurance, but finally retreated as we still fired at him. He didn't get too far, though. Finally, the beast hit the ground and didn't get back up. We approached the beast, which was still alive but unmoving other than the breath coming from his bullet-ridden diaphragm. His face and fangs had taken a hard hit from a grenade, and its lower jaw was no longer attached. We all watched as Samosky climbed on top and stabbed his large knife into the Wendigo's chest. He continued to cut the creature's basketball-sized heart out and throw it off to the side. "Time for campfire," he said triumphantly. "We have to burn hard." and burn it we did. Now that adrenaline rush was over, the pain from my wound finally kicked in with the overbearing throbs. I looked down to see a bone from my lower arm protruding out of my arm, which had been opened up from my elbow to my wrist. I started feeling black dots creeping over my eyes. The last thing I saw before I passed out was Shimoski sitting by the fire smoking a cigarette. And that is the end of part 3 of Pain.
I like your accent.
Russian cigarettes are the best. Americans are horrible.
I don't do accents well. I can do a Indian one though. Do you want orange squishies with your hot dog today? Sorry.
Oh, hello, my good friend. You come to Quickie Mart, you buy donuts, yes.
No, I'm enjoying this story. This is cool. This is right up my alley. We went from giant cryptids to Wendigos, and Mark called it right off the jump. Good call, Mark.
I'll tell you what, the hardest part of that was going from, yes, Russian intelligence, we have best cigarettes in the world, to, yes, I am Peter Wayland, and I am British, and then back to, yes, Russian intelligence. That's, yeah. Okay.
So impressed. Can't do that.
Oh man, that's a wonderful story. And again, from our good friend RM Staniforth. Yes. That is Pain Part 3. I think we only have one part left. I'm not sure. I think let me see.
So
let me see if just Part 4. So it's a long Part 4 too. At least that's the way it looks. I don't read these before I do them. I like to read them for the first time,
Hear that, ladies and gentlemen? He does the accents on the fly.
Oh, man. Yeah, Turkish cigarettes. Yeah, right there, Dean Krantz. I've had some Turkish cigarettes. I really like Dunhills. Those are my favorite. So I really enjoy Dunhills. I don't smoke often anymore, but if I was going to, it'd be a Dunhill. I love Dunhills. Anyway, I also like vanilla cigars too. Ooh, speaking of cigars, I had it's like a Fruity Pebble cigar.
That sounds weird.
I know, and it smells. Let me tell you something. I've never had a more pungent cigar than this, and it's called Berry Blast. And I mean the brand is a really good brand. I pay like $40 for these, like a tin of 10. So you get like a metal tin, and it's got 10 of them in there. The vanilla ones I absolutely love. I love the vanilla ones. I had cherry ones. Cherry ones weren't as good as the vanilla ones, but the Fruity Pebble one, wow, pungent, smelly. Very, very smelly. Anyway, we're out of here. Thank you guys so very much for being here. Big thank you to Adega Outlaw, the mad doctor of disaster and destruction. Thank you.
Of Giants and Wendigos.
Giants and Wendigos. And no, we don't plan this shit in advance. He just does what he does, and I do what I do. And if it gels, sometimes, damn. Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh my God, it's a giant Wendigo. We were just talking about giants. Insane.
It's cool.
Dean Krantz, I'm going to have to sit you down and learn you about cigars. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Come to Dallas. Dean, come and hang out with us in Dallas in October. I would love to get you down there. There is a cigar store in Dallas that's like a lounge. It's a really good one. Me and Mexican Iron Man found. You can hang out, watch the game, drink, smoke in the lounge. It's a very good cigar store. I had an absolute wonderful time. Got to hang out during this Valhalla thing at some point over there for the people that like and enjoy a good cigar. But we're out of here, guys. Take care. Be excellent to each other. Always speak friend to enter. And we will catch all of you next Thursday on 7 Kinds of Mischief.
Good night.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.
And watch your back in the shadows.